Hello and welcome to another episode of Anniversary Edition. Today we are going to be talking about Alien, which celebrates its 40th anniversary this year. As always, we're going to spoil the film, so if you haven't seen it, although I don't think I can think anybody hasn't seen Alien, although maybe people haven't.
Yeah, well...
Who knows? I guess because I saw it from a young age, I feel like everyone in the world has seen it, but maybe they haven't. So if you haven't, go away and watch Alien, and then come back, have a little listen to what we've got to say today. I'm Sophie, and I am here today with Tom.
Hello.
Hey. So, as we said, it's 40th anniversary. So this is a 1979 American sci-fi horror, directed by, obviously, Ridley Scott. I've written a little synopsis.
Yeah.
So, the crew from the commercial ship Nostromo get diverted on their route back to Earth to investigate a potential distress signal, but what they find when they arrive is more than they bargained for.
Yeah, that's a good setup.
Yeah, I feel like it's kind of misleading because I think my synopsis suggests that all the action takes place when they arrive, but it doesn't, because obviously they take crew back to Nostromo and everything happens there.
Yeah, mostly, yeah.
Yes, pretty much. So top line for me, I really like this film. Like I said, I watched it from a young age. I was probably a little bit too young to watch this when I first saw it. But yeah, I've always been a fan. How about you? Top line?
Yeah, I mean, I think I would have watched it when I was in my teens, but I feel like this is one of those franchises where I probably saw Aliens first. And I might even have seen Alien 3 or Resurrection before I saw this. I can't remember which order I saw them in. And I don't think it was a franchise that I was like really kind of excited about or particularly delved into that much.
Okay.
But I must have been, I can't remember when it was, going back and watching Alien. Yeah. When I was a bit older. Mm-hmm. And then just thinking, oh, okay, I like this.
Yeah. And
I think Kieran often used to say that I liked long, slow-paced, boring sci-fi, which to an extent I do.
Okay.
And I think this, things like 2001, and, there's a bunch of movies that they're sci-fi and they take their time.
Yes.
I wouldn't necessarily say they're slow and boring, but they take their time. There's kind of, and this is an absolute point in case. Mm-hmm. It's not a really fast-paced movie. Yeah. It's slow menace.
Mm-hmm. It is, and the music pushes you along in just the right way. Yeah. I think, because in my head, that's really interesting because I can't remember which one I saw first. I have always assumed it was Alien, and then I watched Aliens because Aliens was always my favourite.
Right.
But maybe I didn't watch them in order. Maybe it's because I watched Aliens first. I'm not sure. But they feel like very different films. Like you say, kind of as a franchise, you were never really massively first. But they're kind of like different films. Like I would watch Aliens in the same kind of mood that I would watch something like Die Hard or because it's like it's all go.
It's an action war film.
Yeah, whereas this is like, as you say, it's not slow, because actually before we watched this, before we were doing this, one of our colleagues was like, oh, it's a really slow slow film. And I was like, oh God, is it? And then I started watching it and I was like, I don't feel like it's slow at all.
No, I think it is kind of slow in a sense, but it doesn't feel that way because you get pulled into it.
Yeah, you want to know what's going on. You want to know what happens. Yeah. It's like, and I love the setup of the ship, like the very opening scene where you're just kind of, because even that, the fact that they're all asleep, even though that's what they're supposed to be doing, everything's normal. You just have this, like, you're just on edge because you're like, it's too quiet, it's too still, it's too kind of calm before the storm. Yeah. But the sweeping shots where you kind of move from the corridor into the different areas of the ship, I love that. Yeah. But yeah, I didn't think it was particularly slow.
I think it's atmospheric.
Yeah, because that's the thing. It depends on what you want. It's slow if you want to watch an action film.
Yeah.
Because there's like two action scenes.
Yeah.
If that.
I mean, like we say with Aliens, I would equate that more to like Terminator 2 and
absolutely,
like say Die Hard and all that kind of bigger action movie. Whereas this is more like Halloween.
Yeah, totally.
That kind of plodding menace, and it's more. I mean, it's more of a horror than an action movie.
Absolutely.
But it's just like you say, the atmosphere and the set design, and like I was reading up on some trivia, and one of the things I didn't realise but makes total sense is that one of the things I love about this is the fact that it's a working spaceship in terms of like it's not like Star Wars where everything's glossy and kind of it's more like, I suppose, the Millennium Falcon. It's like it's a used ship. It's
grubby.
Functional. It's grubby, and it's everything's
like hard,
just does its job.
Ship.
And the crew are, they're not like the astronauts that we send into space.
No,
because they're like geniuses who are scientists. They're pilots. They're plumbers and heart surgeons, whatever. They need to do all of that stuff. Whereas these guys,
they're workers.
They're workers. They've got a job. It's almost very sort of blue collar kind of. They've just got to go and do the job, and that's it. One of the things that I think makes that work so well, I discovered, is when they're on the flight deck. All of the buttons and switches they've got. So in your production zone, you've got all these buttons and switches.
Yeah.
And I guess it's up to your actor to start pressing things and figuring it out, making it look like they know what they're doing and what those buttons do.
Absolutely.
But what they did was they rigged the panels up so when one person flicked switches or pressed buttons, other consoles around the flight deck that other people were sitting at, things would light up and change, and then they would respond to that. So they were actually influencing what the other actors were doing,
like a ripple,
which made it look much more like they were working together on a common thing. So like when they're preparing the launch sequences or whatever, one person's doing something, and then over in another corner some lights will flash, and another person will respond to that and hit several buttons, which will trigger something else to happen.
Oh, and I was just like, so clever.
That's, isn't it? Because it makes them, they're actually doing something as opposed to just, and that's always a worry in like a sci-fi film is that, like, how do your actors get into the zone of just
casually flying a spaceship?
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. And I think that's like, when I was watching this back, I was so impressed because there's so much detail, like, and that's fascinating because I didn't know that.
That's a Ridley Scott thing. He was a production designer and did adverts and stuff. And if you read or watch any of the behind the scenes stuff on Blade Runner, like his eye for detail is legendary, and I think that comes across.
Absolutely.
And they had some great designers and production team behind this. Anyway, it was it was. I found something else out that fascinated me. So we watched Dune.
Yes.
This film came about because the writer Dan O'Bannon had written, worked with John Carpenter, who made Halloween, on a movie called Dark Star. Okay. And that was essentially a glorified student film. It was a student film that got turned into a feature, and it's set in a spaceship, and it's a bit. And Dan O'Bannon was a bit kind of like, And from that idea, he thought, maybe rather than because that's kind of like a goofy bit of a comedy kind of thing, maybe it should be a horror. Okay. And then he started working on a script called Star Beast. Which is what Alien came to be. But while he was working on that, inspired by sci-fi movies that were coming out, Alejandro Jodorowsky bought the rights to Dune.
Oh.
And he asked Dan O'Bannon to come and write that for him.
Oh, wow. But obviously...
So he gave up everything he was doing, moved to France, started to write the script, and they teamed up with artists around like H.R. Geiger, Jean Giraud, who's called Mobius, and a guy called Ron Cobb. And they did all of the designs and all of that work and pre-production for Jodorowsky's version of Dune.
Oh, gosh.
When that fell through... all of that team and all of that work went into Star Beast, which became Alien.
Ah, that's so interesting.
So there's a strong belief that Alien is the closest thing to Jodorowsky's Dune.
Wow.
Because all of that design and information that they'd started to work on got transferred over. And a lot of that design team came over onto this project, and then they got Ridley Scott, and of course he brought his own thing to it as well. And then the script got a rewrite. So this is another fascinating thing. The script was totally written unisex.
This one?
Yeah.
Oh, really?
So there was no gender specifications.
Interesting.
Until it was cast, and then they went back and put pronouns in.
Right. Okay.
Because they knew that that Ripley was going to be a woman, not a man, and they knew that So
I kind of love that.
Yeah,
writing something completely gender neutral.
Yeah, which it's a thing that a lot of people try to do now, because it's become much more of a thing that actually the casting, things like gender and race, shouldn't necessarily be an issue unless it's specific to your plot. Which in this case,
someone has to be pregnant. Well, that needs to be biologically a woman.
Yeah, in this case, it didn't matter what sex or gender, whatever. Absolutely. It doesn't matter at all, or race or religion or anything.
Wow.
So this then got a rewrite by Walter Hill, who was one of the producers who directed The Warriors.
Ah, interesting.
So there's loads of movies that we've covered have there's so many connections back to Alien that it's I find it absolutely fascinating that all of that creative team
just feeds back into Alien.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not surprising. I mean, because we liked Warrior, it's really stylized. It's The Warriors, and it's it kind of makes sense given most of the films that we've liked. And I think you were saying last week when we talked about The Third Man as well, it happens a lot where you get creative teams and they go with them.
Yeah.
And then from that, it's like, oh, well, so-and-so went on to do this and so-and-so went on to do this. And but it's bizarre that they're all linked to this one film.
Yeah. It's
so
really strange. And Dan O'Bannon, he so that obviously two of the big sci-fi influences for this, bizarrely, was Star Wars and New Hope, in that it was popular and it showed that sci-fi could be this big thing. 2001: A Space Odyssey, which I feel has got a very similar slow menace to it.
Yes, yeah, makes sense.
And then he put on a screening of Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
What?
For Ridley Scott and Walter Hill, and they were like, "Oh, right, that's how far we can push this in terms of the horror."
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so I thought that's an intriguing group of movies.
Yeah, I mean, 2001: Space Odyssey makes total sense.
Yeah, because I feel like aside from the horror element, in terms of its feel, it's kind of like it's an evolution of that.
Yeah.
In a way. And it's, there's also obviously the theories about all of the connected universes.
Yes.
Because I think it goes Predator, Blade Runner, Prometheus, Alien versus Predator.
Wow.
And they're all interlinked.
Yeah.
No one's kind of said it officially, but I think Ridley Scott's intimated that they are, and there are little things that link them all together. I mean, obviously we've had Alien versus Predator, and we know that they are in a shared universe. I think it's Blade Runner where that sits in.
Yeah,
but it kind of makes a lot of sense. That it would.
Definitely.
So essentially, it's like a franchise of 18 movies across 2 studios. 14 movies across 2 studios.
See, there's a lot of those that I haven't seen.
Really? Have you seen Blade Runner?
Yes, I want to say. Whether I've seen it in one sitting all the way through.
See,
I'm not sure.
When I was at uni and doing film studies, it was Blade Runner, you've got to watch Blade Runner. And I'd get 10 minutes in, I'd be like, I'm so bored, and I'd turn it off.
I think that's what's happened to me.
And I was just like, oh my God, I'm not sure I can do this. And then I spent an afternoon as a camera op filming interviews with Rutger Hauer.
Oh, okay.
And I was just like, I really should watch it.
Yeah.
And I had a chat with him about it, and he was just like, oh, if you've got this special edition, watch all of these special features and watch that. And it was clear that he was so proud of it and so passionate about it. I was like, okay, fine. I won't admit to him that I haven't seen it. I'm just going to like,
just go and watch it now.
Yeah. So and I went away and watched it, and I was like, and then it clicked for me, and I was just like, okay, I get it now, and now I really rate it, and I really like it.
Yeah.
But it's one of those things. Just you can feel all of that through these movies, I think.
Okay.
Even though, like we were saying, the sequels to Alien are very different to Alien itself.
Yeah, definitely. And I think they take the Alien franchise to like a different place, especially with like, Alien Resurrection, and it kind of it's going somewhere very different to like, even to Alien and Aliens and Alien 3. It's such a sidestep, like as a franchise for a film, I think. Whether that's where ultimately they always wanted to take it, I don't know. I don't feel like they did.
No. No, I don't think so. I think
it feels a bit clunky.
I think Aliens is. It's funny because I watched Aliens last night in preparation for this because I hadn't seen that for a long time, and I wanted to just kind of get my head around why I prefer Alien.
Yep.
And I think it is. I am more of a fan of that building atmosphere and character. And I think what it came down to was when I was watching Aliens, Ripley, and then they want to get to the action as fast as possible. So everyone else they bring in is a bit of a cliched character. Yeah. And it's all quite stereotypical.
I think that's probably a fair.
And like the Marine unit feels like a Marine unit in Full Metal Jacket, which I think was being shot at the same time. And like or like any other Marine unit from any other war movie, like it, and I feel like in Alien they take a bit more time to develop the characters, and there's that kind of like the whole thing with Ash. Like, what's wrong with Ash because he's different to everybody else? Yeah.
And they don't... I'd forgotten that you don't actually find anything out about him until he literally starts completely losing the plot. Yeah. Because I always knew that happened because I watched Aliens more, and obviously she's so wary of the other...
Of Bishop, yeah.
And I was like, oh, it's because, he goes crazy. But I'm like, oh, but I just always... Because they always have a droid with them. Yes. I was like, oh, they all know. And I'd completely forgotten that they don't know. No. And they're all like, wait, why? He's a robot? Like, yeah. And I'd forgotten that all of that storyline kind of happened. Like I said, I knew that he went wrong. Yeah. It's actually quite far along in the film that he's going really wrong in Alien. Like, it takes... And there's... And because at the beginning they don't know that he's not human... There's this whole, like, I don't trust him, but why wouldn't you? Like, and all of that, I just completely forgotten. I forget. Sorry, no, carry on.
I was going to say, in the director's cut, they actually have a scene. So in the director's cut, there's this whole thing about the fact that the crew kind of just have casual sex. Oh, okay. And there's a scene with Lambert and Ripley talking about whether either of them has ever had sex with Ash, and that he's a bit weird.
Oh, okay.
And they put that in the director's cut because I was looking at this. So that the director's cut, there's a load of scenes they put back in. Right. And that's one of them. Okay. But Ridley Scott kind of said, well, he thinks that the theatrical release, which is what we watched, is the perfect version of Alien. Okay. But the director's cut was just stuff that a lot of fans kind of wanted to see. Right. And I often kind of feel like, and I think it was just called the director's cut because it was a contractual thing. Yeah. I kind of feel like sometimes that actually you don't want to know that because it like putting that in undermines the surprise. Yeah. It's kind of like if you watch the 3 Star Wars prequels before you watch A New Hope and Empire Strikes Back. Yeah. You like you see the rise of Darth Vader, so he's not as menacing a character in A New Hope because you know more about him, and he could be good at a certain point. Whereas if you just watch it from A New Hope, he's just evil.
Yeah,
he's just a villain,
just a horrible villain. Yeah.
So I kind of feel like a lot of like the director cut stuff. Sometimes it makes a film better. Sometimes it's just it doesn't. It undermines certain aspects.
I don't know that I've ever actually watched a director's cut. I'm sure I have, but I'm trying to think of what it would have been. But
I know I've watched director's cut of Blade Runner where they take out the voiceover and all that kind of stuff, and that works. That's a good example of one that does work. It does.
But that's really interesting that Ridley Scott said that the theatrical release is his kind of perfect version. Because I mean, what I like the fact that it's not teased about like that Bishop's that weird. They're like, oh, he's a bit weird.
You mean Ash?
Sorry, I'm talking about Aliens. Yes, Ash. That they. Like, it's just Ripley saying, I don't trust him.
Yeah.
It's nothing more than that. So it's just like, oh, so has he got an agenda?
Yeah.
Like, because he's a scientist and you kind of suspect, oh, okay, well, he's going to be the one, he's going to have some kind of crazy mission if they ever do come across alien life to get a sample. So you kind of make that assumption. But, like, other than that, you don't, you just don't have any inclination that he's that weird. And I think it's better.
Yeah.
Because I think if there'd have been that scene that you're talking about back in it, I'd have been like, oh, so you need to watch out a bit more, like, and watch the storyline a bit more. Whereas you just kind of, it's a couple of throwaway lines and you don't really pick up too much on it.
Yeah, and I think that kind of, I like that about Ripley's character.
Yeah.
Is because it shows that she doesn't go with the herd. Like, she has her own opinion, and she kind of, if she's got a feeling about something, she'll stick to that gut feeling.
Yeah. Well, and there's so many times as well that when you're watching this film, that you're like, oh no, if you'd have only done that, you would have saved everything. Like when she won't open the doors because she's like, no, it's protocol. Like, we have to wait 24 hours. And if they'd have waited, obviously, all three of them would have died, probably. Or maybe not. Maybe it just would have been him. Who knows? But then they would have been the two of them stuck with the little thing.
Yeah.
Waiting. And you just think, oh, that would have saved them. And then when he touches the thing in the beginning, when he's like, oh, this is like, it looks like eggs, so I'm going to put my hand on one.
Oh, yeah.
I'm like, what are you doing?
Yeah.
Like, I'm sorry. And sometimes in horror films, when things like that happen, you're like, no one would ever do that.
Yeah.
I'm like, I don't believe anybody would ever do that.
You mean, is that Kane?
Kane, right at the very beginning. So
the thing about Kane is that he's curiosity.
Yes.
Like, he's the first guy to volunteer to get to the planet. Like, he just wants to know. And, you have to have that because it's his curiosity that gets him killed.
Yeah, curiosity kills the cat.
Exactly.
Or not in this case, because I love that the cat survives. Obviously.
Yeah.
But
and it's one of those things. It's like I really like his character because he sees it as this amazing discovery, and he's just so keen to get into the detail of it and find out what it is. And there isn't much thought of danger.
No.
At all.
Well, I think because it's their lives, right? They're out in ships and then they come back and they're often about, and they will have had that happen before where they've gone and there's just nothing, they've never come across anything ever as the human race.
And I think it's like, they've obviously signed up to this job.
Life, yeah.
And you can tell there's Parker and Brett.
Yes.
Who have just signed up for money because it's going to make them a lot of money.
Yeah.
They're proper working class guys. They just mend the ship and they're just in it. They're going to get their check and then they're done. And Kane's signed up for the adventure because he needs that. I don't know if it's danger, but he needs that.
It's like a thrill.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you're right. Like if you think of like that's their day job, they're working, and all of a sudden there's this amazing adventure to go on, and he's like, no, it's me. Like I want to go. I want to be the one.
Yeah.
And it's just so annoying because I'm like, dude, don't touch it. Just don't. Like everything bad is going to happen. And that's what's I think when a film, it's quite nice watching it like that because you see all these tiny little decisions that just if they'd gone a different way,
you
just think, oh, it would have been such a different outcome.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's, I mean, there's so much to talk about with this film. Like, in terms of favourite moments, I think I was trying to think of, like, do I have favourite moments? Do I have favourite scenes? I love the tension, like, and I love the music. I think the music is incredible. But I love the scene with the captain when he's going down, and they're all they look like irises, and they're opening and closing, and they shut the doors behind them, and all of that, and like the tension as it builds, because she's just like with on the monitor, and she's like, no, it should be there, and it's not there, and you're like, well, where is it? Because it's got to be there. Like, I jumped. I knew what was happening. I knew it was coming, and I'm like, I've seen it so many times before, but I was just like, I still jumped when I watched it. I was like, oh god. But I think visually, like, because I would have never really noticed that before. Yeah. But watching something with a little bit more of a kind of a critical eye, knowing you're going to be talking about something, like, there were definitely kind of the cinematography for me. Well, I noticed a lot more in this watch than I have done ever before. Yeah.
I think it looks amazing. I love when they're on the alien ship and they find all the eggs, and there's the mist and the lasers and the thing. And I was reading when they were filming this on a massive soundstage. Yeah. In the soundstage next door, the Who had set up a stage and were practicing their stadium tour, and all the lasers in that sequence were borrowed off the Who from their lighting rig. Yeah.
Oh, that's so funny.
Because they were trying them out to see if they wanted to use them in their stage show, and they borrowed them to do that. Yeah. So, but I love all of that, like the way it looks and the design of that, and those huge sets, and they just look incredible.
It's really incredible. And I'd forgotten as well that, like, when the first time they come up into that kind of like cavernous area, just before they find the eggs. Yeah. And there's like the rotting carcass of something.
The space jockey, as it's known. Yeah.
But it's like is it supposed to be a person, like a human person?
No, it's the alien race, or so basically the xenomorphs, the aliens have attacked whatever was on that.
Yeah, that
thing, and he's so they actually discover two alien races.
Yes, because they discover the I'm assuming it's the carcass. I don't know how to describe it. The carcass.
Fossilized corpse.
Fossilized corpse is Alien 1.
Yes.
Because that's been like chest bursted. And then the second alien species, which is obviously the actual alien they take on board. Because that's massive. Like, and I'd forgotten, like, the first alien is massive, and I'd forgotten that was even there, and that they see, like, the breastbones broken from something coming out.
And and they say, they're sticking out. It's come from the inside.
Inside out, yeah. And you're like, oh, that's weird. And one of the other moments that I really like in this is when Kane. Like, I love the camaraderie that they all have when they're around the table. Like, it's really nice. Yeah. But when Kane is, like, fine again.
Yeah. His celebration meal
that just goes so disastrously wrong. Yeah. He's so good in that. Yeah. Like, the acting is great. Because obviously they think that he's, like, convulsing, and then they're like, oh, he's having, like, a fit. And they're trying to get him to bite down on something.
A spoon, yeah.
Oh, and it just, but the way that he's, like, his body, like, the physicality of that moment. Yeah. I mean, I know it's so famous.
So that moment, one take, 4 cameras.
Wow.
They didn't tell most of the other actors exactly what was going to happen. They knew that something was going to happen to his chest, because he was under the table and through a hole in it, and then there's a fake body that's animatronic writhes about. So they kind of knew that they were going to do something to it. And obviously I assume the script said that something burst out of his chest. So I think they kind of had a rough idea. Yeah. They didn't know how much blood there was going to be.
Oh, wow.
They weren't prepared for the way it was going to, like, explode out of him. God. So those reactions, when they get blood on them, that's genuine, because they're freaked out. Apparently Yaphet Kotto went home and didn't talk to anyone for, like, hours, because he was just in so much shock
traumatized
from that moment. But so, like, that scene, I think, it's so iconic.
Yeah, it's so iconic.
For such a, good reason.
Yeah, like it's incredible.
The tension builds, and then it's just like, and I mean, it must have been shocking for the actors in there, and they'd read the script.
Yep.
And I think part of the problem I have is that I'd seen that spoofed before I saw the film. So you kind of get it spoilt a bit.
You do, yeah.
I just imagine being in a cinema in 1979. And you've seen Star Wars.
Yeah.
And then you get
and
this.
then you see that.
And it's like, oh my God, that's crazy.
Because I remember the first time I saw that and I was like, I think I probably did walk around with like my hands just holding an alien in just in case for like 2 weeks. Because it's so gross.
Yeah.
Like it really is so gross.
Yeah.
And I can't remember if is it in Aliens where she has nightmares about it?
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
And you're just like, I mean, you'd just be psychologically damaged forever.
Yeah.
I mean, there's no way that you would ever get past seeing that.
No.
And it's just it's so gross as well. And one of the things that I think I was a bit worried about watching this because, like, when I watch Star Wars, chronologically the first ones that were made, not chronologically, my bad, the first ones that were ever made.
Yeah. Chronological in order of production as opposed to order of events in the movies.
In production. Yeah. They just, I do really like the films, don't get me wrong. But they do feel dated, and like the technology feels dated, you know. But what I was so surprised by this is I think it's because of the nature, like you say, of the ship is it's a big, dirty, like grimy working ship.
Yeah.
And it's buttons and lights, and it's all a bit tired, and it's like it doesn't feel like it's dated in that way because I was like, oh, is it going to look kind of a bit rubbish? Because
I was thinking about that because it's a working ship. It makes so much sense to have buttons and switches that you can fix and replace because they're mechanical as opposed to like a glossy high-tech
and
touch
like you
screen.
say, they're not like that. They're not those types of people. They're like people who get their hands dirty and they get stuck in and they do jobs like that. Engineers who are like fixing things physically.
Yeah.
Because if technology goes down or they're on a planet and they haven't got power, if they're mining, it's like you can't rely on like, you know, your crazy mothership to do like a retina scan.
Yeah.
It's like you have to just find the bloody key or know the code. And I was really apprehensive because I was just like, oh, I think it's going to look really like dated, and it just doesn't at all. Like I was really surprised and impressed that when there's tiny bits, the room where they have to go in to speak to Mother. And when you see everything on the screen and it's like green and I was like, and they're pushing the buttons. I was like, okay, fine, that's a tad dated because your keyboard would be all nice and flat now.
Yeah.
But other than that, I was impressed because it just doesn't feel. I mean, it's 79 as well. I was like, it's made in the 70s.
Yeah.
Like that's an old film, and it feels more 80s in my opinion.
Yeah.
Than a 70s film. But yeah, I was relieved that it wasn't like unbearable to watch.
Yeah. Because
it's often tech that lets a film down or that dates a film.
Yeah, it really can be.
Especially when it's supposed to be a futuristic film.
Yes.
And you're just like, oh no, we already have that now, and that's not how that looks.
Well, I mean, if you watch Blade Runner, that is set in 2019, so you know,
we've already got it.
Yeah.
Or probably haven't. But it's I was a little concerned about that. So I think we've talked a little bit about this. I've watched this like a long time ago for the first time. But when did you say that you'd first seen this?
I'm not entirely sure. I can remember watching, I think I probably watched Aliens with my mates because they loved it because it was an action movie and all that kind of stuff. And I was a bit like, it's fine. So I think I probably would have watched. I mean, I may have seen bits of it, or I've certainly seen spoofs of it. Yeah. And so I think like I properly watched it as a film fan, as someone who studied film, probably in my mid to late 20s.
I reckon I watched it when I was like
10 years or so ago.
I was a younger teenager.
Right, okay.
I mean, I was probably 15.
Right. That's still,
Because I don't think I would have watched it much younger than that.
No.
But yeah, I was curious. I was like, I couldn't remember what you'd said. But favourite character?
It's tough.
It's tough, right?
There's some good characters in this.
There's some really good characters.
And I think that's part of its thing, is that all of the characters are interesting and well drawn, and like, I think Ripley's a fascinating character.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, they all are. They've all got something about them. And I mean, all of the acting's fantastic.
It is. It's very, like, understated. It's very natural. It's kind of, that's how you would probably react, and that's probably how you would behave. Like, what's the other female officer's name?
Lambert.
Yeah. Her kind of, because she sort of goes a little catatonic. She's like, I can't, like,
she's a bit kind of skittish, and a bit more so than the others.
Yeah, because she's terrified, and she's sort of panicked, and she has this kind of, well, let's just go, let's just leave. She just wants to run away.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I can totally understand that. But it's like a real reaction. It's so nice because, like you were saying, they're real people with jobs to do that isn't this.
Yeah.
So, like, they're not military trained, they're not soldiers.
No.
They don't have that kind of, like, calm under pressure. Because even Ripley, when she ends up being in charge, and she goes into Mother, and she's talking to the computer, and she finds out that, this has been Ash's plan. And then she, like, chucks him up against the wall, and then she just steps back and, like, she starts crying because she's like, she just can't.
Yeah.
She's like, what do I do? And I'm like, that is what you would do, because you just never expect to be in that situation. No. Whereas someone, if you put this, remake this film and you put kind of military people in who are going out on, like, special ops, it just wouldn't be as good, because they react like normal people.
Yeah, and that's kind of what happens in Aliens.
Yeah, absolutely.
And it's like, so the whole there's a good point here, that the whole fact that aliens have acid for blood came from the production designer, because they were talking about, why don't they just shoot the alien?
Right.
There has to be a reason why they just can't just shoot it from a distance or kill it like that.
Yeah.
And that's why they invented the acid blood, because that's going to destroy the ship. So they know they can't essentially like pierce its skin.
They can't pierce,
So that takes out the guns element of it.
Yeah.
And I think that when you then move on to Aliens, one of the things that I'm just like, well, they tell them not to shoot it.
Yeah.
They still take guns. They shoot it. Some of them get killed by acid. Some of them get acid on them. Yet they still shoot them.
I know.
Multiple times. And I'm just kind of like...
Insanity is literally doing the same thing over and over again. And stop shooting the aliens.
So and that's kind of one of the things I'm just like, oh man. And you're right. And so that's why I think a lot of the reason I prefer this one is it makes more sense.
Yes. Yeah.
I think that, like, in Aliens, some of the sense goes out of the window to make way for spectacle. Yes,
and I totally agree. Like, we were talking about that with The Third Man, weren't we? Where we were saying, it's so nice to watch a film that's not reliant on any spectacle at all. And this, I mean, of course, the effects are amazing, but
absolutely,
they don't take away from the kind of the acting and the, like you say, the sense of kind of normal people, and it's like acting in a sensible, or as sensible as possible when you're being hunted by an alien, like a sensible way. And the other thing that I really like about this film is that, obviously I know these films and I know that Ripley's the hero. But the film isn't set up like that, and that's I really like it, because they all get woken up. They do have this, like, sense of camaraderie. They're all sat around the table. They're so unsuspecting that anything bad is going to happen. And she's not the leader.
No, Tom Skerritt is, and he Dallas. He should be the hero, and he takes the heroic. He makes the heroic gesture. I'm going into the vents to flush it forward, and you're like,
she's like, I'll go into the vents, and he's like, no. And obviously he has to say no, because if she goes, he has no second in command.
Yes.
And then if anything happened to him, there's no one else to run the ship. So he makes the right decision. But he's just he should be the hero, and he's set up to be, but he's just not.
I think it's interesting. So Tom Skerritt turned it down. So basically, this film had a budget, had a proposed budget of like $4.5 million.
Okay.
Ridley Scott drew his storyboards, and 20th Century Fox immediately doubled that.
Wow, okay.
And then there were some tweaks made to the script by Walter Hill. And once all that had happened, Tom Skerritt was like, actually, no, I will do this. And then halfway through filming, he went up to them, the producers, and said, can I trade my wages for a 0.5% of the return?
Wow.
So he obviously was getting a vibe during filming that this was going to be something.
Wow.
Which I think is fascinating for him to flip from I don't want to do this to this is going to be big.
Definitely.
And you know, like he's probably one of the most understated. Like, I feel like you learn the least about him.
Yes.
You get less of an idea of who he is than anyone else. He's very understated, and you kind of think, oh, he's the quiet leader who's going to be the hero.
Yeah.
And then he isn't.
Yeah. Yeah, but you do. You're right. You learn more about Ripley. You spend more time with like Lambert and her kind of like panic and worry. You spend a lot more time with Kane, obviously. But Parker and
Brett.
Thank you. And
they're almost like not quite comic relief, but they are kind of like the slightly goofy. And
they are.
You know, they're big personalities.
Yeah, and you kind of you like from what 10 minutes, 15 minutes into the film, you know that they've got an issue because they aren't being paid their share isn't as much as other people's.
Yeah.
And you know that like, well, I suppose that they're the main people that you learn about, but you know that Kane's the adventurer, and you know everybody kind of has this sort of Ripley's kind of calm and she's pragmatic.
Yeah.
And you know she's the one that wants to listen again to the distress signal.
Yeah.
And she's the rational one. She's very kind of like, you know, no, we have to follow, and she will have to follow protocol and do this and do this. And you're right, he's the person that we don't know hardly anything about.
Yeah.
Like nothing's really revealed about his character, apart from he's like, oh, I'd like it if people just didn't give me a headache.
Yeah, yeah.
And just did what I asked them to do.
It's funny because in that respect, he's essentially set up as the one who's most expendable, but he's the one you kind of think isn't.
Yeah, because he's the leader.
Yeah. And
you're just waiting for him to like become the hero.
Yeah.
And I love that he doesn't. And I love that it's Ripley.
Yeah.
And I just think, yeah, I would struggle to pick one favorite character. I mean, it probably is Ripley.
Yeah,
it's
I think
be
so.
Ripley, right?
Yeah.
But in terms of performances, I think they're all fantastic.
I think it's a testament to Sigourney Weaver and the character of Ripley that for Aliens she was nominated for an Academy Award for Best Actress, and that's never happened for an action movie.
Yeah.
Other than Aliens.
But she's so good. Like the character is written so well.
Yeah.
Like it's a gem of a part. But Sigourney Weaver is just phenomenal. She just is Ripley.
Yeah. It was almost Meryl Streep.
Really?
Yep.
Oh wow.
It was the two of them right for it. Yeah. Yeah, me too.
Wow. Sigourney Weaver's amazing. I can't imagine anybody else playing this part.
Yeah, I know, and they weren't sure who was going to get it, and Sigourney Weaver was pretty unknown at the time. Meryl Streep was obviously more well known, but I think Meryl Streep's partner at the time had recently died, and during the casting process, she was kind of mourning that, and it was just she wasn't quite there. So they thought that Sigourney would just be a bit more reliable.
Yeah.
In that instance, because they didn't want Meryl to drop out. So, and it's just kind of panned out that way. And I think, I mean, obviously, you know, it was a very close call between them anyway.
Wow.
And I think that the fact that Meryl was dealing with something was just enough to make them go, okay, let's go with her.
Sigourney Weaver, yeah.
Which,
but she is, I mean, she is just so good, and it's because she's normal. You know, she's not a superhero. She hasn't got crazy skills. No. She doesn't do anything that you think that's just like stupid. You know when like in horror films people leave doors open and things open behind them and you're like, close that door. Like you just want to yell at them.
Yeah.
She never does anything stupid.
There's lots of that in Aliens. There isn't in this. They're much more pragmatic, a lot more like grounded and normal. She's
just a normal person in that scenario doing the best she can to try and save as many crew members as she can as possible when she's in charge.
Yeah.
So I'm a big fan of this. I think it still holds up, and I was worried about the tech, but I think it's still a really great watch. It's scary. It's so atmospheric. I think it's the type of film that you should really watch at night.
Yes,
like
definitely
with popcorn.
Yeah.
on your own in the dark.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
And just scare yourself.
Yeah.
Like it's a good. It's for me. It's like up there.
Yeah.
As like an all-time. Just a great watch and a great film.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it is. I think it's one of the best. I'm not a massive fan of horror, but it is one of the best horrors, I think. And I think it often doesn't get the credit for being a horror because it's so sci-fi.
Because it's so, and I think you're right. Like, I do like the odd horror movie, but I don't like the way that they're so reliant on gore and special effects and all that stuff. And actually, films like this just go to show you don't need to be.
No.
Like, okay, you do see a bit of gross gore and blood and guts and stuff, but...
Yeah, there is. I think they did tone it down a bit. I think they ramped it up in production, and then after a test screening, I think they then went back and trimmed it back a bit.
Because you don't need it.
No, you don't.
Because it is so incredibly atmospheric and it's so well made.
Yeah. Because because movies that rely on gore are playing on your revulsion as a reaction, whereas this is playing on your fear of the dark.
Yeah.
And it's that innate. There's
something lurking
there.
In the dark that you can't see, that you don't know is going to be there, that you don't know what it can do. You don't know and it's... Alien's so scary because it doesn't seem to have any motivation.
No.
Like, I think we've talked about this a bit in other episodes of, like, villains. But
like Halloween.
Yeah,
It's just an evil thing that wants to kill.
Yeah.
And
that's
or
scary.
procreate.
Yeah, because if you know what it wants to do, you can be like, okay, well, I'm not going to, like, get in the way of you and, like, your babies.
Yeah.
Or you and, I don't know, finding the amulet that's going to, shine the light on the planet and combust, blah, blah, blah. But there's just nothing. It's just a killing machine.
Yeah.
It just wants to kill and, like, breed.
Yeah.
That's it. So, yeah, everybody please watch Alien. It's good.
It is good.
So next week, we are talking, I believe, about Goldfinger.
Yeah.
Very different film.
Very different film. Our first Bond movie.
Our first Bond movie, yes.
Yeah, it'll be an interesting one, I think.
It really will be. I mean, are you a Bond fan?
I am a Bond fan, yeah.
Okay.
I am. Yeah, I've read all the books.
Okay.
Seen all the movies.
Wow. That's a fan.
Yeah, I wrote an essay on comparing the books and movies when I was at uni and stuff like that. So, and I have a couple of friends who have literally written the book on Bond films.
Wow. We should chat to them.
Yeah, it's called Some Kind of Hero, and it's literally like it's like a brick, and it's the definitive book on all of the making of all the movies.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Wow, that's impressive.
Yeah, it's a really good book.
Wow. I mean, I've seen a fair few of Bond films. I've never read a book. A Bond book. But I've seen quite a lot of the films.
Okay. So I'm going to ask you before we get to Goldfinger.
Okay.
Like, who is your James Bond?
I knew you were going to ask me that. Okay, so I think probably because of timings and when I saw it for the first time, it's probably Sean Connery.
Okay.
Maybe Pierce Brosnan, though, because that's kind of my era.
Yeah.
But I do like Daniel Craig.
Okay.
But I like Daniel Craig because I haven't seen the last one.
Right.
That he did. So for me, I liked Daniel Craig because he was very different to all the other Bonds I'd seen before, and he made Bond a bit more believable.
Have you seen a Timothy Dalton James Bond?
Oh, yeah.
Really? And you didn't like Dalton?
Not a fan, no.
Interesting.
But the thing is, as well, I think it's the type of film that the earlier ones, for definite, they're the types of films that I probably would have seen that will have been on TV in the afternoon and looked a bit dated.
Yeah.
And I will have just seen like Pierce Brosnan or something with flashy cars and cool tech. And I'm like, really? Yeah. Like what? So I think that's probably why.
Yeah.
And it's more
that
of
makes
like...
sense. I can see that.
Yeah, I think that's
and there are some of Pierce Brosnan's ones are really bad.
Oh, yeah.
Like, really bad.
What, Pierce Brosnan or...
yeah, I mean, he did some good ones, but
some,
like,
some are not great.
Some of them are really bad.
Yeah, I think that's probably fair.
Okay.
And he was... Bond was always a bit of a caricature in my head. In a lot of the films I'd seen, it was like he was a bit too much of something. Mm-hmm. He was a bit too sleazy, or like too much of a womanizer in one, and then he was too much of a, too much of like a British gent. I don't know.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
A little bit verging on caricature, and that's why when I watched Casino Royale, I really liked Daniel Craig, because I was like, okay, I can get on board with James Bond.
Yeah.
Like, as a human.
Yes. Yeah, I think a lot of people felt like that. And, I know, there's definitely times when you want to watch a Roger Moore Bond over a Connery Bond, or you want to watch, so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Interesting. So next week's going to be fun.
I think it'll be good going back to Goldfinger.
Yeah, it'll be really interesting, actually.
Because I think that's often seen as like the quintessential Bond movie.
I do too.
I don't know if that's just me, but I
get them muddled up, like, a lot.
A lot of people do.
Not so much the later ones, but the ones like I watched on TV.
Yeah.
I'm a bit like, oh God, what is this one? Or is it, I was waiting for this character and just never turned up. And it's like, oh, that's because this is in a different film. Yeah. So yeah, it'll be good to kind of refresh my memory and have a little chat about it next week.
Yeah.
So that's us. Goldfinger next week on Wednesday. Join us, have a little listen. But thank you for listening today, and we'll catch you next week. Bye.
Bye.